it's showing that no one is here. Is the sound coming up? Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
So I'm on a new webinar, and the old webinar, it wasn't letting me change it. I hope that people are finding that they can move to the new one. Unfortunately, there was nothing I could do about the old one. Oh. Okay, so one person's here, Ian. Yeah, stuff happens. And I guess now I see my screen plus all these little things scrolling away. If anyone else is there, I see it's not showing me how many people are on here. So I see one person has written something. I see another person. Is there anybody else? And these things happen. I guess that I will get started. And actually, I'm going to post everything up on my blog anyway. So if I'm not able to cover, or if someone comes in late, then hopefully they'll get to see everything. All right, so I apologize that it's small over there. I don't know why it's splitting the screen like it is, but I'll get started. So I've already said how big decisions are hard. And so what I want to talk about is why they're hard. And I think that talking about why they're hard will help us understand what we can do about it. And as I said before, there was a participant from last webinar's prompted today's. And actually there, you see my email at the bottom. So if you have questions for a future webinar, please feel free to write them to me. And I will, normally I'll do these webinars on topics that I consider, relevant to what I write about: leadership, emotional awareness, things like that. But if you want something, if you have a question that you want me to cover, I can cover that first. Okay, so this participant, or this attendee from the last time, said, here's the issue. He's a game developer in LA, so he writes computer games. And not just write, he's a producer. He does lots of other things. And he has experience abroad making mobile games in Korea. Why Korea? That'll show up in a second. And he's facing a major career/life choice in literal and figurative opposite directions. He's in LA, but the two options he has available are that one, he's got a choice between China, where he's been offered to start a game studio, which sounds like a big opportunity and lots of cool stuff to do, or his hometown of Nashville, far from China, to produce interactive media in a stable, established company. So right there, I'm sure the people listening have had questions like this. Should I choose one type of job or another? And one of the main things here is that they're not immediately comparable. This is what makes a lot of decisions very difficult. And so how do you decide between things that are not so easily comparable? He also mentioned that my first talk at Harvard was something that helped him. And I have the link at the bottom there. If you don't have time to type it in, then this video will be up and you can get the link later, or you can just go to my blog and search for Harvard. And my talk there talked about decision making. And that's what I'm going to talk about here. I should also mention on a personal note, this resonates strongly with my year in Shanghai. I'm not sure if you guys know, but I was there for a year. And my company brought me there to help develop some new technology. And while I was there, I had three big things going on. Being away from home gives you a chance to think. So I was there first with my company, and I thought, we're growing and learning and developing new things. We were working on technology to go up in the Nanjing subway system. And that was going very well. Maybe it was something I wanted to increase. Then there was my art. And I don't know if you guys know this about me, but even though I have no background in art, my first medium, the first technology that I built is really cool. When you look at it, it looks really great. And even though I have no background in art, I'd started to make art out of my medium and was getting gallery shows, museum pieces, and people were buying my stuff for fair amounts. And on a personal note, I was learning and growing, a part of me that I'd never known about, and I really enjoyed that. Okay, and the last piece was leadership. So this is about close to 10 years after my after business school, and I started learning about leadership and started developing my courses and my materials. It was really starting to click in really well. So I had three choices. Did I want to go into my business? Did I want to try to become an artist? Or did I want to go into leadership? And as you can tell by what we're doing now, I went into leadership, and this webinar being a part of that. But I want to point out, like all my big decisions, I wish I had decided earlier. I went back and forth, and this ended up being what I really liked, and I wish I'd done it earlier. How did I change from vacillating and dwelling in decisions like I did a long time ago to now where I like making decisions? And a lot of times, like a lot of things in leadership, a lot of it goes back to my business school experience. In particular, my second semester of my second year, which is to say the last semester before graduating, my classmates and I, everyone was thinking about what they're doing after graduation. And it wasn't the same with everybody, but everyone seemed to have this thing of, do I want to do Goldman Sachs or McKinsey? They have multiple offers, not always Goldman Sachs, not always McKinsey, but some of them did have this exact one. And they were saying, what should I do? Should I become a banker or should I become a consultant? And they would spend months dwelling on this decision. Now, from one perspective, you could say, that's a difficult decision. How do you decide between them? From another perspective, most people outside of an Ivy League business school would say, just pick one. They're great options. They're both great options. Looking back now, these are kind of big words, but I look back at that vacillation, that dwelling on those decisions with disdain and disgust. These are harsh words, and I'll get back into why I look at, from the outside world, pick one and go with it. They're both great options. Yeah, one of them works harder, maybe one of them has more prestige, I don't know. These are harsh words, but the example illustrates the properties of hard decisions, and I'll come back to them in a little bit. Some of the big challenges are that they had time to analyze. Sometimes you have a really big decision, it's really hard, but you have to act right away, and you choose and you go with it, and that's it. But when you have time to analyze, you can analyze and analyze and analyze forever. Analysis paralysis, there's a name for it. Next is that they're incomparable values. It's tough to compare. Maybe one has longer hours, but one has a more comfortable work environment. Or maybe one pays more, but one has more working away from home or something like that. It's tough when you have different values to compare them against each other. Next, it's really high stakes. For all of these students, there's a lot of money involved. It's going to last for a long time. It affects everything of how people think about you and things like that. And then last, there are long-term consequences. Once you start going into banking, it's difficult to get out of it and to go into something else. Or once you start going into consulting, it's difficult to go into something else. So it feels like you're making a choice that's going to last for the entire rest of your life. These four things make it pretty difficult to make a choice. And the thing is that since they're not under our control, it's something we have to live with, right? Well, I want to point out that that's not necessarily the case. It is the case if you never change your beliefs or realize that you can change your beliefs, you do have to live with that. But I want to point out, why did I talk about beliefs? Between McKinsey and Goldman Sachs, aren't both good? Aren't both high-paying, prestigious jobs? Well, they aren't both good if you don't believe they are. And that's what's happening here, is that both of them are going to pay a lot. Both of them you're going to be happy. You have equal potential to be happy. If you have equal potential to be happy at each of them, what's the issue? If you don't believe that this is a choice that's easy, it becomes difficult. So a brief aside here, my course gives you skills with beliefs. And today's course, today's webinar is going to be about how to apply examining, understanding, and changing your beliefs to one area, in particular to deciding. But that's just one area. And my course is really about doing this, being able to examine, understand, and change beliefs in general. So while today's webinar shows one application, the course, and what I'll talk about at the end, is going to be how to change your beliefs like this, not just in one case of decision-making, but in general. How to work with your beliefs broadly. Okay, so back again. What makes decisions difficult? Time. How big the decision is. It's easy if you're choosing among small things, you don't really have to worry so much. how comparable the values are that you're acting on, and the duration. How long are you going to have to live with this? So I want to give some simple examples here just to illustrate how it can be, or how to go from simple to more challenging. So first, if I asked you if you want $1 or a punch in the nose, everybody's going to pick the $1. You don't like punches in the nose, and you do like dollars. Okay, very easy choice. Let's make it a little harder. $1 versus 50 cents. Now here, everybody picks $1. I presume you would pick $1. I certainly would, because $1 and 50 cents are directly comparable, and $1 we want more. We don't dislike 50 cents like we dislike a punch in the nose. Let's make it a little more complicated. What if I asked you if you prefer $1 versus $1 and a penny? Now, in principle, $1 and the penny is worth more than $1, so you should pick the $1 and a penny, but there's not much use for $1 and a penny. So suddenly it becomes a little bit of a harder choice. Now, there's still low stakes, so it's not a very difficult decision, but let's make it a little bit more difficult. What if I asked you if you wanted $1,000 today versus $1,100 next week? Now, I've done a couple things here. I've raised the stakes. $1,000 is more than $1. So if you make the wrong choice and later decide you wish you had done the other one, it's a bigger deal. Also, we're comparing things that aren't so easily comparable. $100 today, it's $100 and it's time. How do you compare money versus time? We've done that in life, but I'm just illustrating that it makes it a little bit more difficult. Now let's make it a lot more difficult, where it's really difficult to quantify these things. Would you prefer to take a job or go to graduate school? Maybe people here have made that decision themselves in life. It's not such an easy choice to make. This is a more difficult decision. Let's make it even more difficult. Let's throw some more complicated emotions in here. Would you rather have kids today or maybe wait a few years? Now it starts getting really, really difficult because it's not clear. Maybe there are options that will close if you have kids or you don't have kids. Or maybe you'll break up with the person that you might have the kids with. It becomes more complicated. Now, people who know me know I'm a geek and I like looking at things in a geeky way, and because I find it useful. So here I illustrate with a graph. This is more like the $1 versus the punch in the nose. So the $1 versus 50 cents. Choice B is obviously better than choice A. It has more of what you like. So if I ask you which one you'd go for, you'd pick choice B. It's more of what I like. Here's a little bit more of a difficult challenge. Choice B is bigger than choice A, but choice A is now starting to get closer to choice B. Or let's make it a little more hard, a lot more hard. This becomes a harder choice. Now, choice B has more of what you like than choice A. So why is it a harder choice? It's worth thinking about a little bit here. Why is it harder to choose choice B than choice A in this situation? Why is it harder to choose $1 versus 50 cents or $1 versus $1? This becomes, I don't know if you can see this here, but choice B is still a little bit bigger here than choice A, but this becomes even harder of a choice. Why is that? I'm not sure if people have ever thought about this, but I'd like to point out that the word decide offers some of why choice B is harder than choice A. I'm not sure if anybody here has ever thought of what is the root of the word decide. A lot of people see the DE and they think it's like, oh, that's the DE of like dichotomy. Maybe that means two. Maybe it's something about choosing between two, but it's not. In fact, the DE is from the Latin meaning out. But what about the CIDE? This is actually the challenging part of decide. I'm not sure if anybody knows where CID comes from. It's the same as in pesticide or insecticide or suicide. The CIDE here means to cut or kill. So decide means to cut out. The challenge in these choices is less of what I used to think. I used to think choices were about which one do I want more? And a lot of people, if you think which one do I want more, it doesn't lead you to the real challenge of deciding, which is the real challenge is which one do I cut out? Which one do I get rid of? So look at this choice here. I've made the one on the right is a little bit bigger than the one on the left. This one is really hard, not because if I told you the one on the right is bigger, that doesn't make it easier because you still have to get rid of the other one. Here you're cutting out something really big, almost as big as the thing that you're taking. That's what makes choices really hard. That's what makes decisions very hard. If I throw in multiple issues, which in a job it's usually compensation plus time at home or travel or things like that. So if you had multiple issues, here I've made it so that in choice A, one part you like more, the other part you like less, and in choice B, one part you like more. I've reversed it. Now, in principle, if you're only looking at the material properties of things or the values of things to you, I've made this here so that one of them is bigger than the other. It's a little harder to tell, but if all you wanted was the one that was bigger, you could easily go with that. A harder choice, multiple options does make it harder, but in principle, if you only want which one is better for you, it gives you more of what you want, this would still be a relatively easy choice. The thing is here you have to get rid of, if you went with choice A, you get more red, but you have to give up more blue. You have to give up something that you like a lot, more of what you like a lot. But I'm giving these illustrations to point out that the challenge is less material and more your beliefs. It's less material and more beliefs. So someone asked if it's picking like versus want. In a certain sense, yeah, that's part of the different values. If all you wanted was the thing that you wanted, if all you cared about was what you wanted more, that would make it very easy. Because you're believing that you're going to lose something when you choose, if you choose A and you give up B, you're giving up B. If you're thinking about losing that, it makes it very difficult. But it also, when you understand that the issue is about beliefs and less material stuff, it offers you a way out, and that is to change your beliefs. So the next slide is going to be, it's kind of a lot of text. I hope you can read it when it's smaller over there. But I want to point out another way of looking at decisions. This is a quote from, it's often attributed to Goethe, which is, I read in Wikipedia, is Germany's Shakespeare. But it's actually from a Scottish mountain climber. And the quote is this, I'll read it out loud. Until one is committed, there's hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there's one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur that help one that would never have otherwise occurred. A whole stream of events issue from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. I learned a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. So what he's saying here is that when you decide and commit to something, things start coming out of the woodwork. Opportunities start happening that you never knew about before. In my experience, it works like this. People have hopes and dreams, but they're often afraid to act on them. They're afraid to make these decisions. They're thinking about what they might lose instead of what they might gain. And what I found is that if you act on your dreams, all these people who are waiting to act on theirs would rather than take the risk of their own acting on their own dreams, they'd rather help you in your dreams. So when you commit and you act on something, when you decide, then a lot of people start offering you resources that were never there before. And they're not there. I used to think, keep all my options open. The more options I've opened, the more value I have. I've not found that to be the case. Committing creates resources happening. And so this is another belief, another perspective on decisions, that the longer you wait to decide, the more that you are holding off the opportunity for the world, the providence, as Murray puts it, to create resources for you. So my decision-making goal has been to enjoy life. This is my new perspective. Because while I'm dwelling on decisions, I don't see that as, I'm not here to live my life to choose, to spend time wallowing in indecision. It's to enjoy life. And so if you haven't heard it before, I have my skiing/surfing model for decision-making. Some of you may have heard it before. So it can work with surfing. I'll describe it in terms of skiing, but if it's surfing, if any of you guys have surfed, then you know that if you pick a wave to go on, then that means for a couple minutes, you're not going to be able to take any other waves because you're surfing one wave and then paddling back out again. But for me, I like to think about skiing. So here's a skier, and this person is a better skier than I am because I can't ski in trees like that. But you can see that they have a choice of going to the right. It looks like the skier is going to the right, or they could go to the left too. And this happens, if you guys haven't skied, I'll tell you that sometimes you're going down a mountain and the one path goes to the right and one path goes to the left. Or sometimes you're going down in life and you have the opportunity to go to China or to Nashville. So sometimes you stop where the paths diverge, and you think, should I go to the left or should I go to the right? And now, in principle, you could go down a little bit and see a little bit farther than you can from where you are, but that means you have to go back up again and then go back down and go back up. It doesn't make sense to do that. If you look to the left and you look to the right, sometimes one is the one you want to go down, but sometimes you can't tell just by looking. And you're not really sure if you go down to the left, maybe after that turn, it gets really difficult, or maybe it gets really awesome. And if you go to the right, maybe there's a lot of people there, or the shadows might fall in some way that makes it difficult. It would be nice to have all the information in the universe, but you never have all the information in the universe. And so what do? It would also be nice if you could go down one all the way to the bottom, and if there was a magic rewind button that you could press, a magic rewind button of life that you could just press it and go back up again, and then go down the other and press that magic rewind button and come back up again, then you would know perfectly which one was better, which one was worse. But it doesn't work that way. And even if you want to know which one is better overall, if you go down one and then come back out of the mountain and go back down the other and go back down the mountain again the other way, you might think, well, now if I had more fun one way versus the other way, now I know which one is better. But you never know, because once you start doing it, it's never the same mountain twice. So you can never really know for sure which is the way to go down. What I learned is that, or what this model offers for me that I find very valuable, is that I don't go to the mountain to stand and get cold. I will go there to ski, and standing and getting cold is not something that I like to do. I've chosen to live my life to do things that I like to do, and wallowing in indecision is not living life. It's like standing on a cold slope watching other people go by. So my decision-making process that's informed by this model is, first of all, number one, if there's an obvious choice, take it. If one's a better slope and the other one's like too hard for you to do, eliminate the others and go with the one that's obvious. But those are the easy decisions. If there are multiple choices, first eliminate any non-choices, any options that are really terrible. So if there are 3 paths that diverge and one of them is so hard that I can't possibly do it, I get rid of that one. But now, if I'm left with more than one remaining, among the remaining choices, among the remaining options, I change my perspective. I like to ski. I want to go down the mountain. So I like to ski. I like to surf. I like to enjoy life. I say, get ahead. But more to the point, the question changes in my head from which option is better to, do I want to take responsibility for creating my life? This is a very different perspective from which is better, number one or number two, A or B, to do I want to take responsibility for making something happen in my life? And this is a change from evaluating options to focusing on the process, so that this is a hard choice. But when I focus on the process, what I'm doing is I'm making the options smaller. So I've kept the ratios the same. Here, A and B, the ratios between A and B are the same between these 2 options. But in the second one, in this one, this is an easy choice because it's like between $1 and $1. Now, I can't say between Nashville and China which one is better or worse. I don't know that, but I do know that once you choose one, then it becomes more clear what to do in life, and you can start skiing, you can start living, and you can make new options come your way, make new resources come your way. And I'll let you in on something that some people think this is really silly or crazy, but here I've given choice A and choice B are exactly the same size. How do you choose among them? The thing is that when you switch from which one is better, which one is worse, or which one am I willing to give up on, if you're thinking the term of decision, which one am I cutting out? If you have no way of choosing between them, and there are equal options, when I'm in a choice like this, it becomes not impossible. I flip a coin. I literally get a coin out of my pocket and flip the coin. And I've made major decisions in my life only after I've exhausted all the non-options. I was left with, I can't choose among these, and I flip a coin. And to the point where before I flip the coin, I tell myself, am I willing to go with a coin toss? Because if I ever toss the coin and then don't go with the coin toss, then I find that then I undermine the value of the coin toss. So I don't let that happen. So when I go to the coin toss, I go with what happens. And now this goes from an impossible choice to a simple choice. The other question is, do I have the confidence to handle what comes my way? Because no matter what choice you make, sometimes after you make the choice, things happen that you wish you knew better, that you couldn't have known at the time, or maybe you could have known at the time but didn't take the time to research. It will always happen, and no matter what you do, things will happen that you will have to handle. So the question to me that I ask myself is, do I have the confidence to handle what comes my way when things don't work out the way that I wanted to? But I also recognize that if I don't have confidence, that's my problem. That's not a property of the outside world. That's not a property of the options. It's a property of me, my confidence. And so I ask myself, am I willing and able to grow, to develop? Will I look at this opportunity, the choice that I make, as an opportunity to grow, to take on challenges that I might not otherwise have had? And so all of this is embodied in a phrase that I'm pretty sure I created this, because I've looked this up and I've never heard anyone else saying it, but it sounds so pat, so, I don't know, to me it's very catchy. So I think someone else must have come up with it, but I don't think anyone did. But the phrase that I say is, you have to say no to a lot of good things to have a great life. You have to say no to a lot of good things to have a great life. Now, you could say that that's a negative thing, because that word no is just hanging out there. But I put to you that it's not. It's a statement about values and relative values and acting on them. Good things are good, but they're not as good as great. And if you don't say no to good things, you don't get great things. And what I've found since I've had that phrase is that I'm always dropping increasingly valuable things from life. Now, this might sound crazy. I'm dropping increasingly valuable things. I'm taking things in my life that I like and I'm getting rid of them. That might sound crazy, except I'm saying no to good things to have a great life. I'm making time for more valuable things. And doing that a lot has led to experience that has brought me emotional reward. Emotional reward tells me I'm doing something that I should be doing by my values. It reinforces the value of saying no to good things for a great life. I have more time for great things. I have more time for working on leadership development, all these courses, teaching, because I'm not doing the art, because I'm not doing the old company stuff. Those things would have been great. I'm sorry, they would have been good, but this is better. And that means I'm having a better life. So again, I don't know between China and Nashville, which is better, but I do know that when you choose, you'll be able to go ahead on something that's more valuable to you. So I've learned that these decisions improve my life. So I look forward to these decisions. Sometimes I've chosen things that I've looked back on. One example is that I've run a bunch of marathons. And one time, as I was getting rid of more and more things, I got rid of the medals that I got from running the marathon. I thought to myself, did I run the marathon to show off to other people? No, I didn't. I ran the marathon to run the marathon. And so I'll get rid of these medals. And then after I got rid of them later on, I thought, those things weren't exactly getting in the way. Maybe I should have kept them. And so I thought for a long time, I got rid of something I should not have gotten rid of. But then as I've looked back on it more, I've learned and grown more, which is to realize that it wasn't such a bad thing to get rid of these things. And in fact, I look back and think, when I ran those marathons, some people say, everyone who finishes is a winner. But I don't look at it that way. I finished in like 10,000th place. I came in 10,000th place. That's not something to be proud of. That means I'm the 9,999th loser. That's one way of looking at it. So these material things, that's not what it's really about. And it's not a big celebration. I did finish. That's kind of cool. Anyway, that was an aside. Sorry. So I learned that these decisions improve my life. They force me to learn my values and act on that knowledge. And sometimes to change those values. In fact, that example of the medals, I changed my values. That at first I thought I shouldn't have gotten rid of them. At first I thought I'll get rid of them, see what happens. And I got rid of them and I thought, oh, I shouldn't have. But now I think I've grown as a result. Looking back at, you remember I talked about my classmates choosing between Goldman Sachs and McKinsey. Looking back, today I think I felt disdain. I'm not sure if I did at the time, to be frank. Because that was 10 years ago. I'm not sure, I don't remember details from 10 years ago like that. But I think I know why I use such strong words as disdain. Why do I remember that? Why do I remember that? Because that indecision that they exhibited reminds me of my indecision. In particular, there's one big decision that I dwelled on for a long time. When I started graduate school and getting my PhD in physics, I really loved physics. And when it switched from classroom learning, which is what I did in undergrad, to research, I found that I didn't really like it as much. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep doing it. And so I thought to myself, well, I kept dwelling on the decision. I kept thinking, should I get a job? Should I leave? Should I keep doing it? I'm not sure. And I thought I was keeping my options open, but I wasn't. And if I look back now, however unconsciously or however inadvertently, I decided to continue. I decided to do something that I didn't like for 4 years. That's 4 years of my life. Now, looking back now, I've done a lot of things. I've used my PhD in lots of different ways. But what else could I have done? I don't really know. I'll never know. But I didn't realize that I didn't look at it then like I look at it now, that I was holding off on acting on something that I could have done otherwise. And that's, when it cuts close to home like that, that's when you feel these emotions like disdain and disgust, partly for myself for having dwelled without acting. So now, as I said, I look forward to big decisions. So to the attendee who gave me that question, I ask you, instead of which do you like more, or even which are you willing to give up, what comes next? Actually, he's told me he's chosen Nashville. So he said that in an email after coming up with the question. So can you start skiing? If you've chosen Nashville, if you're still in LA now, can you start acting on this? Can you start getting in touch with your family, with your friends, with the company that you're going to work with anything, so that when you get there, they're not thinking, let's get him started now, but can you make things happen so that resources that you're not aware of can start coming out of the woodwork? Maybe they'll start looking to you as a leader, someone who makes things happen before you get there. I'm not sure. It's your life, not mine. But what comes next? Can you start skiing now? So for me, my Shanghai decision led to teaching, seminars, webinars, finding audiences, all these sorts of things. And I could have started earlier. I could have done seminars and things in Shanghai before I came home. Now, it also led to doing my online course, which has been one of my big passions, was creating this thing. It emerged from lots of things that came from that decision. And I wish I'd started doing it earlier. Now, it should be that if you scroll down on the window, I believe that there's a link to, they changed the software. I don't think that the link is there. Well, maybe I can put up on here. Well, I'll have to, if you go to my blog, then you'll see that there's a description of my online course, and I have it accessible for a reason. I was unsatisfied with all the leadership material out there. A lot of people talk to me and they say, Josh, I like your coaching, I like your seminars, I like your teaching. Can you give me resources to help me to learn this sort of stuff? And the thing is that I've read a lot of leadership books. I've watched a lot of leadership seminars and things like that. And there's nothing out there that did what I think is most important. They were all teaching about leadership, and none of them were teaching you how to lead. They were all giving you facts and knowledge. But what I found is that facts and knowledge about leadership, when you actually go to practice it, you get overwhelmed by the social and emotional challenges of it, including making decisions like this. This is one aspect of leadership in general. The stuff that's out there is not about giving experience and facing emotional and social challenges. So that's why I made my course experiential. And I think that people that you're listening to me now, thinking about decisions, I hope you're thinking about I hope and I anticipate that a lot of you are thinking about decisions that you're facing in your life. Should I ask for that promotion? Should I switch to that other job? Should I ask that person out? Things like that. I hope that you act on that, because acting on it is how you learn and grow. Today's webinar challenges: seeing beliefs, seeing beliefs, changing them, acting on them. This is stuff that's challenging and hard. Taking responsibility, learning your values. That's what happens when you choose things. No book, lecture, or video will give you experience. And my course gives you exercises to act on what matters to you with people who do. That is, the exercises aren't abstract exercises like algebra things. They're things where I give you exercises to go out and practice in your life, so that things, for example, facing challenging beliefs and seeing if you can change them, or at least understanding them. That's something that's in this course, and then to act on them and to deal with the consequences. And not just abstract issues, but no two people who do this course has the same experience, because you will pick for yourself where you want to apply these things and how you want to apply them, and with people in your life that matter to you. It forces you to learn your values and to act on them. So instead of memorizing principles, when you take my course, you will learn them through your experience so that you will be able to teach them to others. So instead of trying to learn principles, I've met a lot of people that they've read a lot of leadership books, and I ask them, what would you do in a situation like this? And they give me the pat answer. It's a very different thing to tell me, this is what the theory tells me that you should do, versus what comes out of doing the course is you've done it and you draw on your experience. With one big difference, that when you do my course, the experience that you get is in a safer environment. I give you smaller issues so that when you handle them, then you go out in the world outside the course and you have a big decision that you have to make in life. You look back at what you've done before and you say, oh, I did that in Josh's course on a small scale, now I can do it on a big scale. Anyway, so if you click on the link or do the search into my blog, read more about it, decide if it's right for you. Ask yourself if you want to look forward to challenges and making decisions like this and not to shy away. Anyway, so I'm about to wrap up. I'm just starting to promote the course, so it's at an introductory price. I'm not sure how long I'll keep it there, because as demand grows, I'm not going to fight the laws of supply and demand, but it's going to increase. But I want to wrap up this webinar by saying, enjoy your decisions. That's a big statement there. Enjoy your decisions. Not dwell on, not analyze, but find ways to enjoy making these decisions. Skiing, surfing, living your life, so that you won't regret them. And I want to thank you for the issue with switching the webinar at the beginning. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them right now, especially if they're on decisions. I'm also, you see my email. I'm not sure if you can read that down there, but it's josh@spodek.net. And I'm happy to take questions or suggestions for future webinars. So I'm not sure if you guys have questions. And I know that there's often a lag in the webinar. So I'll keep talking a little bit now. If people want to put stuff up, then I'll take them. Or if you have comments about, if you have decisions that you're thinking about in your life right now, I could take them too. So I'm looking over, you see me when I'm looking over to the side, the leadership course. Oh, so the question is the leadership course only meant for people who are in management positions? Is it meant only for them? No. Is it very helpful for them? Yes. In fact, there's two large groups, two separate groups that tend to get the most out of it and tend to be most attracted by it. One group is people who are in management positions, but on the cusp of leadership, meaning they are, for the first time, being considered for promotion into these positions. So they're looking at positions like a leadership position where they're going to be managing lots of people, and not just functional, like you're not just an engineer managing other engineers. Now you're going to be an engineer promoted to a position where you're managing engineers plus salespeople, plus marketing people, plus IT people, plus people that haven't been under your purview before, or people who have just been promoted into those positions. And these people, they come to me and they point out, Josh, up until now, everything I've done, I was trained to do in what I went to graduate school for or what I majored in. And now suddenly, for the first time, I have to do all this people stuff. I don't understand what's going on. Or I'm being considered for it and I'm kind of scared. I'm not really sure what's going to come next. So that's a big group of people that are interested in my course, is they're on the cusp of leadership, recognizing that the functional skills that they had before are not helpful for them anymore. And there's a whole new set of skills that they need to learn. The other big group of people that I tend to see a lot of are people who are at the end of the path that was chosen for them or that was laid out for them. So for example, they're fresh out of college or just about to graduate, or more commonly fresh out of business school or some professional school or graduate school, or just about to graduate. And they realize that up until now, it may have been hard work, hard learning, but it was not any personal challenging decision that they had to make. This is why, if you look at the testimonials or the reviews from the college students that I took, one of them said, a couple of them said, this was teaching undergrads, this leadership course. They said, let me see if I can remember. In 7 semesters, this is the first course that's challenged me. Think about that. That means that up until then, they've been learning things. No doubt, I mean, this is an elite school, NYU, where I was teaching, but if they haven't been challenged, it means that they've been learning kind of technical stuff or facts and knowledge, but not challenging themselves. This course will challenge you. If I remember that quote right, it then says, it challenged me, but it also gave me a community of people to work with. So actually, when you do this course, there's a forum attached to it. So after you do the exercises, you write up your exercises, you write up your reflection on the exercises, and then you get to see everybody else's reflections, and you can learn from them and they can learn from you. So I hope that helped. I hope that answered the question, that it's not just for people in management positions, but it's particularly helpful for management positions, or for people in management positions, especially if they aspire to move into leadership positions. Oh, I should mention a third group that the course has a lot of appeal for, and that's people who are entrepreneurial. I get a lot of entrepreneurial people, and they are by default in management/leadership positions because they can't help it. All right, so if there are any other questions, I'll take any other questions, especially if about decisions. If you have questions that are not related to decisions that you would like me to tackle in a future webinar, then please feel free either to write it up now or to email me at josh@spodek.net, and I'll be happy to tackle them in a future webinar. If not, then I will, take on another, I'll just do it on another topic that's leadership related or emotional skill related, and I'll announce it. And I'll test the software a bit before. There was an update in between last time and now, and so I was using it with a slightly different interface. Okay, so I haven't seen a new question in a while, so I will wrap this up, and I hope to see everybody next time, which will be next weekend, and I'll tackle a question of my own or of one of yours if one comes. So thank you very much, and I will see you later.